let's talk about anxiety. I've been struggling with anxiety for almost as long as I can remember, and it hasn't always been as bad as it's been the last year, but it's always been kind of present. Today I'm going to talk about 5 things I wish I knew 10 years ago about anxiety, and most of them were taught to me by my psychologist. Now, before I start and talk about the 5 things that I've learned recently, I want to share something with you. First of all, everybody knows that anxiety is a mental issue, but what people often underestimate is the physical impact it can have on your body. And I am living proof of that. The last year, I had been having a lot of eczema. It started small, just here in the insides of my arms, but towards the end of last year, it had spread all over my body. It was on my shoulders, my neck. It was in my hair. It was on the back of my knees as well. It was everywhere, and I didn't know what to do about it. Now, at the time, I hadn't linked it to my anxiety. I thought it had to do with other things. I tried different foods. I tried walking in the sun more. I tried drinking more water. I tried cutting gluten out of my diet, and the eczema seemed to go away for a little bit, but it seemed to be a placebo effect, because after just 2 weeks, it was right back where I left it. After trying a lot of different things, after changing my diet, after walking in the sun, after drinking tons of water, after meditating, I decided to go to a doctor, which I had done before in the past when I had my eczema. But nothing seemed to help, and this time it was just the same. I would go to the dermatologist, and they would give me pills, they would give me creams, they would give me UV treatment. Nothing seemed to help. And my eczema finally went away 4 months ago. And 4 months ago is when I decided to contact a psychologist.
Coincidence? I think not!
And this brings me to my first thing I wish I knew about anxiety, and that is talking helps. Now, myself, I'm very fortunate to have a very supporting wife with who I can talk about anything. She had her fair share of anxiety as well, so she knows what I'm talking about. I can talk about it with her, and she can talk about it with me. But I would recommend to everyone to go talk to their family members, go talk to your girlfriend or your wife or your boyfriend or your husband. Go talk to your friends, and you'll be surprised how willing people are to listen to you. Now, when they ask you if you're fine, don't always just say it's fine.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
I'm from Europe, and it's very common for people to just say, "Hey, how are you?" And the other person answers with, "I'm fine, thanks for asking." Even if they're not fine, it's a standard answer that everybody gives. So I recommend you to stop doing that, and to talk with your friends. And you'll notice that a lot of them probably also have had anxiety in the past, and they might give you advice, they might listen to you, and that's great. Just talking helps. Now, even if you talk to your friends, even if you talk to your wife, I still recommend, if you deal with long-term anxiety, to go and see a psychologist or a professional, because they can teach you perspective. They can teach you how to deal with your anxiety, and together with them, you can figure out ways on how to overcome your anxiety, or at least how to recognize the patterns and how to deal with it. This brings me to my second thing I knew about anxiety 10 years ago. Anxiety will come and go. Just because you have anxiety doesn't mean that you need to change something drastically in your life. It's what I would do in the past. Whenever I would feel anxiety for a long time, I would feel as if something big was wrong in my life, and I would have to change something to get rid of that anxiety. But anxiety might be a buildup of a bunch of little things, like not doing the dishes, not paying the bill as soon as you receive it, not talking to that one friend that you've been wanting to talk to, not talking to a family member, not doing that one thing that you've been postponing. And all those little things, each by themselves, might not give you anxiety. Now, this brings me to my third revelation, and that is that sometimes it is triggered by a big event. like I mentioned in the previous point. And it's important that you recognize those patterns as well, that you recognize which kind of events trigger anxiety for you. The biggest fear people have across the world is stage fright, right? People are afraid to be on the stage, to be in front of a bunch of people, say whatever they need to say, and they are afraid of the reactions of the people, of forgetting what they are about to say. Maybe they are a comedian and it's their first time going on stage, and maybe they're afraid that people aren't gonna laugh, or maybe they're afraid that people are gonna laugh for the wrong reasons. In the last part, I think you still succeeded, you know? Your job as a comedian is to make people laugh. If they laugh for the wrong reasons, I guess you still succeeded. Now for me personally, all the events that would trigger my anxiety could be boiled down to one thought, one process, and that is whenever I would feel like something was about to go wrong or something already went wrong, I would get anxiety. Now, this is probably relatable for a lot of people. For other people, feeling that something is about to go wrong might seem like a challenge to them, and they might use it to fix things. For me, this didn't seem like a challenge because feeling like something was about to go wrong had an underlying thought that was very strong within me that created the anxiety for me. I thought I was useless. I still think that I'm useless and that I'm inadequate a lot of the time.
Trash.
Which brings me to number 4. These events that trigger your anxiety are linked to underlying thoughts that you have about yourself or about your environment, and those thoughts are triggering your anxiety. And for me, this was thinking that I am useless. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't living my life repeating a mantra in my head all the time, Maarten, you're useless, Maarten, you're useless. No, it's way more subtle than that. Let me give you an example. I've been wanting to make YouTube videos since I was 16. I'm almost 28 now, so 12 years later. But when I would have a thought like this, like, maybe I could start a YouTube channel, there would be another voice in my head that would go like, hey, but what do you know about YouTube? You don't have any skills that you can share on YouTube, and you don't know anything about filmmaking. And whenever this would happen, I would do one of two things. One, I would run away. I go and visit friends. I would start playing video games. I would go partying. I would do anything that would distract me from those thoughts. Now, the second thing I would do might seem better on surface level, but it was actually way worse. The second thing I would do is I would go to YouTube and I would research how to make a good YouTube video, or I would read a book about it, or I would read a blog about it. On the surface level, this might seem great, right? You're preparing yourself for the project that you want to embark on.
Nope.
Unfortunately, after watching all those YouTube videos, after reading a lot of blogs, after searching for hours on Google and on YouTube how to do whatever I wanted to do, the voice in my head would still be there. You're still not good enough. It's not because you watched a YouTube video that you know how to do this. So that's when I got lured into some other practices. That's when I would get lured into buying a course, because buying the course, I would learn other things that I couldn't just find on YouTube because I would pay for it. They're behind a paywall. So if I pay for it, I would discover the secret thing I need to know to be able to be good at YouTube, to be able to be a good salesman, to be able to be a good marketeer. If I would just buy this course, the feeling, the thought that I was inadequate, the thought that I'm useless would go away, and I would finally be able to do what I wanted to do. So I would do that, right? That's also what they promised me in their commercials. So I would buy the course, I would buy the seminar, I would buy another webinar, I would watch the whole course, I would go to the seminar, and I would come back feeling completely motivated. Only after a few days, the motivation would go away and the voice in my head would come back. You just went to a seminar. Everybody can go to a seminar. You're still not ready to do this. And that would just go on and on and on for tens of years. This has been 10 years, not tens of years. I'm just 27, not 57. But for 10 years, this has been going on. I would want to do something. I would tell myself that I'm not good enough to do it. I would try to find information on how I could get better at it. And no matter how much information I would consume, no matter how much I would pay, no matter how many hours I would watch the YouTube videos or read or cover myself in information, there was never a point where I was like, okay, now I'm ready to go and do this thing. So after spending thousands of hours on YouTube, after spending way too much money on courses and seminars, my psychologist told me that the feeling, the thought that I had was never gonna go away.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
I felt mad at first because I had spent so much money and I had spent so much time on trying to get rid of that thought that told me that I wasn't good enough. And now I just needed to realize that it was never gonna go away. What had I been doing the last 10 years?
Something ain't right.
But after letting it sink in, I felt pretty relieved because I no longer had to fight the voice inside my head that told me that I wasn't good enough. So I could just go and do the things that I always wanted to do and just accept that the thought was going to be there. And for a lot of people, this might sound very obvious, but obviously to me, it wasn't. That's why I spent all that time and that's why I spent all that money trying to feel adequate, trying to get rid of the thought that told me that I wasn't good enough. And this brings me to point number 5. No matter how much you study, no matter how much you prepare for things, your confidence is going to come from doing. And again, this might sound very, oh my God, it's so obvious to a lot of people. And it's really obvious to me as well. Like I watched a lot of self-improvement videos and they keep saying it in all those videos. Confidence comes from doing. But I would hear it, but I wouldn't believe it. Or I think I would believe it, but I just wouldn't start doing it because I felt like I needed more confidence before I would start doing. And if you're seeing this video, it means that I'm actually doing it right now. It means that I've uploaded this video and that I finally made my first YouTube video, and that is the start of my channel. So yeah, this is the start of my YouTube channel, and I'm not sure where exactly this YouTube channel is heading. First, when I was 16, I wanted to make a YouTube channel about gaming. A few months ago, I wanted to make a YouTube channel about gaming, but now my first video was about anxiety, and I'm not sure where it's gonna go, so bear with me. If you liked the video, make sure to obliterate the like button and also click the little subscribe button. If you have dealt with anxiety yourself, you can always leave some advice down in the comments below. And if you feel like you wanna talk with me about it, if you feel like you can't talk with anybody about it, you can always talk with me. You can find me on Instagram as simply Maarten. So that's really easy to find. And yeah, as I said, this was first going to be a YouTube channel about gaming. So I still might do that, but as of right now, I'm streaming games. That's every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday in the afternoon from 2 to 5 Brazilian hour. I would have to check when that is for Europe. But you can find that on my Twitch. I'll also link it down in the description below. But that's twitch.tv/simplymaarten. I play a bunch of games, but if you just want to hang out and talk to me there, we can do that as well. So thanks very much for watching, and now just go and do the thing you always wanted to do. And if you have any doubts, accept that the doubts will always be there. And see you in the next video. Ciao!